Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of There's a Will. We are glad to see you. And in the studio, I have with me a close friend and one of our best media observers, not just that we have on the show, but in the entire country.
Wow, thank you. That is overwhelming.
Well, I think it's true, yeah.
Well, out of politeness, I will not argue with that.
And your name, sir, Ivo Bender.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is certainly true.
You are correct. You will agree to that. And on the horn from the east of Poland, we have the illustrious Olgierd Uziemblo. I feel like I should go, Olgierd Uziemblo.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
You like that?
That sounds very good.
That was exciting, wasn't it? Yeah, I like that. I got a little frisson, can I say?
You can.
You let me say
It's
that.
your show.
You let me say
It
that.
is your show.
Yeah, it is? Oh,
Yes.
She's at home.
that's what they keep telling me. Yeah. Have you ever noticed how Schindler's List, that famous movie,
I have seen
is
it.
the same as Schindler's Lifts? They're lifts that are made by Schindler's? Elevators? I mean,
Yes,
elevators,
indeed. Yes.
Have you ever noticed that?
Yes, I have.
Just thought I'd throw that out there to begin.
I have.
I know how you like a good pun. Schindler's Lifts. I've had a lot of laughs over that with people in the elevators. Look at that.
There are not many. Well, we call them lifts here.
Yeah. They call them lifts here. That's why the joke is funny. In America, it doesn't work. I tried it in America, and they said, this is an elevator, buddy.
Exactly.
Schindler's Elevators doesn't work.
Actually, here we call them winda.
Winda, exactly.
You call him a what?
Winda.
That sounds like Bogusław Winda. He's an actor.
No, Linda. I'm clumsy man.
What? Okay. Bogusław Linda's an actor, right? Olgierd?
Linda, Winda, lift, wind, whatever.
Yeah, okay. I'm
Like a
practicing my Polish. And
Scandinavian trying to say wind. He would say wind.
what's the hardest word to say in Polish?
Przasnysz?
Przasnysz?
I would say that for him would be Konstantynopolitańczykowianek.
Oh my God! What's that? Yeah, I can't say that. I mean, I would need some Excedrin PM and some probably hospitalization to come up with that one. But what about, or maybe even stronger drugs, or perhaps some of the drugs you like a DMT or something like that.
You're confusing me with Joe Rogan.
Ayahuasca.
We look different.
Isn't it ayahuasca that you and Joe take?
All the time.
You and Joe,
Yeah,
Ayahuasca.
Yeah,
I know.
We hang in the Peruvian jungle all the time.
Yeah, I know. You were telling me. You were just out there. But
Buddies.
you were just in South America. But
Estonia is not South America.
You were with
I was in
Joe?
Estonia.
You were with Joe? Was he in? He wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
Estonia's not the same.
No.
But I know. I visited Olgierd in his country lair. That's what I call it. His hidden bunker in the forest.
Prepper's hideout.
Yeah. And he had a big pot of ayahuasca and was stirring it and saying, double toil and trouble. And stirred it up.
Funny thing, you took that pot to Warsaw. I don't know what you're doing with it.
Yeah, I don't even know either. Maybe I had some before the show. It seems like it, doesn't it?
More and more.
This is we have some serious topics, so that's why I'm being so lightheaded. I mean, light-witted. Yeah.
Light with your wit,
Empty-headed.
shall we say.
Yeah. We have a number of things to talk about, which are, I wanted to start with this, to clear up something about this. You remember the ecological problems in the river that we talked about, Olgierd, yeah?
Yeah.
You remember that, don't you? Ivo's got us some information on that. What's the latest that you
No,
were reading?
from what I understand, it was just the fact that the water levels in several rivers in Poland were actually low. It was extremely hot, so a lot of the water simply evaporated. Also, algae bloomed in this in this situation, and basically the fish ran out of air. You know, the fish actually have to breathe. You know, they have gills and they filter out oxygen from.
Listen, I saw the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Okay, so you know about gills.
And I know about gills.
You know about gills. But anyway, so
Hey, you can't get that
so
past me.
the poor creatures died by the thousands, and it was not mercury poisoning, because, you know, when I was listening to Polish media.
Well, of course not. This is Earth. We're not poisoning planet.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's the thing that you used to have in your thermometers. But anyway, the Polish media seemed to have been suggesting at the time that it was, you know, the evil Law and Justice Party personally pouring mercury into the river.
No, they use strychnine.
Usually, right?
Yeah.
So never this. Yeah. So anyway,
It's got
turns out,
poison.
you know, in British contracts, you have this wonderful clause that says that the contract will not be fulfilled, you know, if there are acts of God that prevent the parties from fulfilling the contract, like, you know, earthquakes, hurricanes, things like that. They're in general called acts of God, or vis major, and I guess that was a vis major. Poor fish died because of terrible, terrible heat waves.
So we need rain.
Yeah, I mean, everything is fine now.
Is there rain? Has it rained a bit?
Yeah, it's much better. It's much cooler. It's raining, so Odra is coming back to life. So it was an awful thing, but
Well,
it
not
was
around the place I live in. We have really dry period now. Still have it.
still. Ouch.
Does that include the Bug and the Nerev, which are the rivers
Yeah.
embracing you, and also the Bierbje River, which runs up the north? Yeah.
I guess so.
Or runs
I'll have to
into
check.
no, it runs out of the
I guess, yeah, it is
marshland.
really dry in this region.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I noticed because we made a few trips over there shooting some travel stuff, and but there's been some beautiful weather. I went to the Agricultural Museum. I think I mentioned that to you on the phone. The one in Chehanoviec. Chehanoviec. Yeah, and they were really nice. I recommend that to anyone who comes to Poland. Chehanoviec. It's not far from where you are.
Yeah, not that far. Yeah.
Yeah, on the edge of the Podlasia and it's near Vangrove for people, not too far. Near the edge of Podlasia and the county we're in here, Mazowieckie. Yeah, we're
Great Mazowsze, yeah.
Yeah, Mazowsze, where Poland's the capital, of course, and Białystok, of course, the bustling capital of
The northeast.
Yeah,
It's
a great town.
a great town.
We'll have a lot of fun there. Religions of every kind. Interesting
Very
place.
true. Very true.
Absolutely true.
It's a very diverse ethnically corner of Poland. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it was traditionally, and still is. Yeah,
Belarusians, Lithuanians, you know.
yeah, and you get some Muslims over there too. Going
Two
to-
villages. Yep.
They go over there and tour and look at the old villages. Yeah, with the two villages that are there. We have some headlines that I thought we should look at because there's. It may lead into our other discussions. We're going to talk about Kherson. We're going to talk about Chomsky a bit and his Kissinger-like predictions about what would happen with China and the USA in a war. We're going to talk about Dugin and his daughter's demise. Dugin and his daughter's demise.
I
Notice the
appreciate that alliteration.
Thank
yes,
you very
yes,
much.
yes.
I was working on that in front of the mirror. And then there's a couple of other, we would talk about maybe, if we have time, Neil Ferguson's new book. I think we'll have time for that. The Politics of Catastrophe. From Neil Ferguson, the LSE and former Harvard professor. He's at LSE now, I believe, isn't he? Maybe not. I think he is. All right, a great writer at any rate, and historian of note as well as economist. Britain has a new prime minister, and we do not. We still have the same prime minister, by contrast, just in case people were wondering that we might change because Britain did. In fact, no one else in Europe has changed the prime minister, just Britain. And now we say, in Liz we trust.
Well, time will tell. Very funny. Yes. And just a little footnote.
funny.
She is the third female Prime Minister of the UK. And interestingly, all three ladies were from the Conservative Party, not from the Progressive Labour Party. They only had white males. Boring.
Yes, well now, yeah, there apparently going to be no white males in the cabinet, and that's going to solve all the problems. I think maybe Ben Watson's staying as the defense guy.
We shall see.
We'll see. But I read an article, and the most important thing, of course, was there would be no white men
At all.
involved anymore in the top positions.
Yeah, that's
which
true.
is obviously because the world that we live in was not built by those people.
And again,
Yeah.
interestingly, it's not the Labour Party that pays lip service to all kinds of, parities and quotas.
Thomas Edison, by the way.
Also a lady.
Yeah, he was a transvestite because he was not able to change. At that time, they didn't have the technology.
I see.
But it's a secret transvestite. Along with Teddy Roosevelt,
I was not aware of
swung both ways. What I mean is when he played baseball, he was left and
I see.
and right hand.
And Joseph Stalin.
Yeah, of course. The great poet. What do you think? What do you expect from a poet? So anyway, finally England can be saved. Don't you think, have you got any comment on that, Olgierd?
I was wondering whether England would change course at all with the new Prime Minister.
We'll see. Lowering taxes doesn't seem possible right now, does it?
Yeah.
Really
They don't seem to be changing anything regarding the war
No.
with Ukraine. Support stays, so yeah.
Well, I mean, the problem with Boris Johnson is that he went to a party and lied about it. And apparently he's too much of a populist. But it sounds to me like this immediately they have presented nothing but a populist argument about changing, having diversity being the most important thing. What appeals more to populism than that?
But actually, Liz Truss was the more conservative of the two candidates, right? So the base of the Conservative Party actually voted right. And
To the right.
Yeah. And she has a much less flamboyant hairstyle than Boris, which is also important to note.
Yeah, because Boris's hair was out of control, as mine sometimes is, but not today. I had a lot of shellacking done before I came in.
But she will most likely, yes, stay the same course. And so from our perspective and the Ukrainian perspective, hopefully nothing will change.
Right. How do you think it affects Polish-British relations? Either of you? Anything to add to that, Olgierd? I mean, I think it's...
I would rather pose a question, is anything happening with the Czech Republic? That's interesting.
Yeah, the Czech Republic, let's, why don't you bring
because besides all that...
Tell us what's been going on, yeah.
Czechs are helping a lot. They've got really well-developed arm industry, and they are fixing a lot of arms for Ukrainians, as far as we know. So their eventual, I don't know, or possible...
A lot of protests there, though, from both wings, the more, I don't want to say extreme, but the more out there wing, the more, extreme is such a loaded word, I hate to, unless we're talking about actual,
from the far ends of the political spectrum.
Cohorts of murderers or something. Which this is a word that's really overused. But anyway, the communists and the more to the edge of the right got together and had protests in Czech Republic, and part of that was about, that's what you're talking about, isn't it, Olga? The support for the war and what that would mean. Do you think they're going to change anything? Because it was 100,000 people or something.
Well, it was 70,000 for Czech Republic. That's a lot. But let us not forget that The Czechs had the experience of being under the Soviet yoke. They had the Soviet invasion in '68, and they also had, in the recent years, the not so mysterious anymore explosions of their ammunition depots that were actually organized by you-know-who. So, in fact, if you look at...
When you say you mean the FBS?
I'm saying yes, the FSB.
He meant Voldemort.
Sorry,
FSB, yes. And so if you look, actually, I was looking at the...
I also say ACB.
the favorability...
No, you're ACBs.
There was a survey recently done about, the percentage of populations of different European countries that are actually countries around the world who hold a favorable view of Russia.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, the Czech Republic was in single digits, in sort of, I think it was 7% or 6% of the population. By the way, Poland was at 2%.
How much was the
digits
Czech?
or 2%?
2%.
That's not very favorable, is it?
Not really, no.
You've got to really be an outlier. That's extreme. That's an extreme position. We can call that an extreme position. Poles who favor Russia.
That makes...
And I wonder why they would be, considering the amity in the relations over the centuries.
One commentator said that, actually, I think an Australian commentator said that probably the survey takers actually by mistake called the Russian embassy, and that they were the two guys who actually said that they have a favorable view of that country.
The guys
so who knows?
Yeah, at the Russian embassy.
Wrong number.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That makes sense. The pound is at its lowest level. We're running down to time for the first half. Pound is at its lowest level since 1985. 1.14 to the dollar.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of an old joke, that
It's lower than Brexit.
they're supposed to they're supposed to actually have a parity of U.S. dollars, pounds, and rubles.
And euros.
And rubles, the three, and
Okay.
it would be 1 pound of dollars per. 1 pound of rubles per dollar.
Okay.
That's a joke.
Yes, I get it.
It's an old one.
It's a good. It's a good joke.
Sorry.
No, it was good. It really was. We'll
1 pound of rubles per
If
dollar.
only I had some canned laughter.
There you
we
go.
could get the crew in here to clap. Maybe we'll sit the crew in here, and we'll have some live audience and a couple of dogs who can howl.
They probably should at this point.
They should howl. Right. We talked about all of those things. Pound at the lowest level. I think that's really interesting.
But there was wisdom in this joke, if I may, because actually, the European economy.
Oh yes, so wise one.
There
is often wisdom in what you say.
Extremely well, If they say, "Oh, the Russian economy is showing resilience," well, if the same data was applied to any European economy, everyone would be saying, "Oh, it's in the doldrums." So in a sense, we're safe. Stop panicking. We will not have a cold winter. The pound is down. It does not matter because of the safe and sound fundamentals of the European economies, and let's get over with.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about what Neil Ferguson has to say about that in the second half. And we're talking about Kherson as well. We might just, and Dugan, but we might just throw in, I want to comment just at the end here. Noam Chomsky in an interview with Les Friedman, who's one of the top podcasters, MIT professor and a brilliant young guy, he does interviews with a lot of people. And Chomsky recently was on for an hour, 93 years old, still cogent. If you agree with, he certainly puts his views across. Don't always agree with them, of course. But certainly one of the wise men still around. Even if our friend Olgierd will compare him to Henry Kissinger, says that if the U.S., he's asked in the interview by Lex Friedman, if the United States and China fight a war, what does it mean? Is it possible they will? And what does it mean? And Noam Chomsky says that means the end of everything as we know it. And perhaps the end of civilization. Comment? Olgierd, comment? You're the Chinese guy.
Well,
Chinese
I would say
expert.
that I don't think that were to be that likely, as we already spoken about that. I don't think it is that likely because of the performance of a Soviet-style army. in Ukraine. I think Chinese were thinking the style of the army they have and the Russia have works well against NATO, and it doesn't. And they are not as well. That's precisely why the Russians are fighting the war, not Chinese, because they wanted to see what will come out of it.
Well, they're watching
And I don't think they're going to attack.
They're watching it as an experiment. I think that Mr. Chomsky's reference was to nuclear weapons being used.
China doesn't have that much of the nuclear arsenal compared to Russia, so I think the world-ending potential is on the American-Russia side.
I think that the lesson that China is getting from the Ukrainian war is that indeed that they were conceited, and they started banging, the war drum too early, and that it is not the time to attack. However, of course, you have the terrible demographic and economic problems looming for China. So that's the 10% that I give to the possibility of actually them doing something nasty in the Pacific, because they're running out of time, because they're running out of people, and they're running out of money. It is beginning. China is in big trouble. If cornered, maybe they will lash out, but I really don't think so.
I don't think they would lash out against America. They would rather lash out against one of the smaller countries, or even Russia.
I think they have a lot more to contend with, because Russia looks east. That's China. China say, hey, that's our territory. And they've got all that border problem with the Chinese moving across the border without permission, and taking over Russian land just like that. There's a lot of that going on.
I think of strategic presence of both of those countries in Kazakhstan. That may be the bone of contention.
Kazakhstan is a very interesting thing that you've raised, because according to statistics I just made up, no, I was reading about Kazakhstan, and I talked to someone from Kazakhstan who's studying economics. They said, well, we are ready to put oil and gas into Europe. The Russians are stopping us, and our president is against that. He's trying to get it open. So
yes, and you have to remember about the Chinese influence in Kazakhstan, which is also important, and both countries are kind of vying for Kazakhstan.
yeah,
So that's really interesting. That may be the bone of contention. I understand Taiwan, and I've just had a long discussion on Facebook with one of my Chinese friends who hates me now.
Tell us why he hates you.
No, because I wrote "Stand with Taiwan."
Oh, and why shouldn't you? Why should places be bullied? I mean, the Chinese.
But they don't understand it. He started talking about Syria all of a sudden. I really like.
You start talking about Syria like Count Chocula?
Because Americans in Syria, we need to take Taiwan.
Oh, Syria, not cereal, because I like Captain Crunch.
Syria.
Yeah.
It's always like that. Because Americans or French in Dien Bien Phu, we have to take Taiwan.
Yes, we're going to come. What a nice segue as we're coming up to the end of this section that you mentioned, Dien Bien Phu. More of that and why in the next thrilling installment of There's a Will, the second half to come. May I say to everyone who's watching out there, please stay tuned. And why don't you enjoy these carefully selected messages for your viewing pleasure. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those scintillating messages as much as we did. Messages you need to see to improve or even change your life.
Some of them subliminal.
There were subliminal messages saying,
specifics.
saying,
Speaking of subliminal,
buy my book.
Yes, I had this strange feeling that there were two cows staring at me throughout the first segment, and now I see that indeed they are almost, their mesmerizing stare is in a sense, giving me the creeps. What's
that-
with the two cows and the hat?
This is I'll tell you about the hat in a second. Hat is very important, but that's an old voodoo trick, which I learned from Miriam, the voodoo priestess of New Orleans, who married Lisa Marie Presley and Nicolas Cage.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, a lot of people are not aware of that. I find those things absolutely tantamount to understanding the world around me. Those kind of bits of trivia, relate those together, gives you a fine piece of the puzzle of the rest. At any rate, this cover was designed with mesmerization in the pudding, so to speak.
I see. I have no idea what you're talking about, and
Well, no, the mesmerization. This was specially designed with the help of Miriam, the voodoo priestess.
with the two cows.
Yes, to mesmerize people.
And they do have those hypnotic stares.
Yeah,
There's no
and
question
it's a
about
book about the
that. What
book.
is it about?
The book is about. Well, can I read the back? It says, Bobby J. Mann lives an adventure for our time, spanning continents and decades. Many of the wildest episodes of his first-person story are entirely accurate in history and time, verified by witness accounts. I made it all up. Our boozy bohemian soldier operative turned entrepreneur. How you like that? So it's like our Norman Mailer-esque, isn't it? Yeah, I copied it from him. Survives war and revolution across the globe as he seeks his fortune in a mad, 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 mad world. Remember that movie from the 60s? Vietnam, Korea, Greece, Africa, the Middle East, Central Europe, and the Americas all provide the backdrop for the maddest jaunt since Don Quixote jousted with windmills.
Wow. So it's actually a copy of it is sitting on my coffee table,
Yeah?
and I will read it soon.
Gosh, will you read it?
And then I will be sincere.
Good. If you don't like it,
I will be sincere enough.
Then I want you to tell Olgierd, and then I want Olgierd to lie to me.
Okay.
Okay?
Deal.
Yeah. You will tell Olgierd will lie to me, and that'll be fine. I'll be fine.
Well, what was the title column? What does it mean?
Rome,
Ah, that's Rome?
R-O-A-M. Rome means to wander.
Ah, Rome. I have problems with my eyes. I thought it was comb.
Yeah, but
Okay.
what it really, the Rome stands for the rules of anarchy.
Okay.
And the
Well,
last,
no, the cows, they remind me about the
it's a
Homer
secret
and-
code.
and the
And then the
he-
M stands for man, who's the hero of the book.
Okay.
Nothing is what it looks like.
Is he more like Achilles or more like Paris?
He's more like if Hunter S. Thompson had been a businessman. Is that okay? Sort of that kind of person. Completely wacky, ends up making a ton of money. And then, I can't tell you what happens at the end because there's a sequel,
Ah.
which is being edited now.
So basically,
Out for Christmas.
we have now we're duty bound to purchase and enjoy
Where can you purchase it?
in all fine bookstores,
And Amazon.
of course.
Amazon is the best place.
Of course.
Amazon in any country of the world, you can go to Amazon and order your...
Rome, not
You-
the city.
No.
The verb.
And you can get it in paperback or as an ebook. Okay, let's move on. Thank you very much. Oh, the hat?
Yes, the hat.
University of Georgia. Reigning national champions of college football, team that's close to my heart. And they beat the Oregon Ducks, which is a team close to the heart of a very close friend of mine, by a close score of 49-3. One of the greatest wipeouts between top 10 teams of all time.
You know, I don't really care that much about American
But that
football.
got you. And
but that
Olgierd
did
is
get-
on the edge of his
That did
seat.
get me, but I am a fan of or supporter of Alabama. Sorry, that just.
I know because
I have
your
to say
TV
that.
station
I
is
just
based in
have to say
Alabama.
that.
But Georgia and Alabama
Crimson
played.
Tide.
They played in the championship last year, and Georgia won. It was a great game. They'll play again.
I didn't
this
know
year.
they play American football in Caucasus.
Yes,
Tbilisi, Georgia.
yes, but they play without helmets, which is
Just big fur hats.
They wear pumpkins.
Big fur hats.
Yeah, yeah.
The so-called jigit football, okay.
Exactly, jigit football.
Jigget football. I don't know. Football is becoming more important in Poland. And in fact, I was walking by near Polonia in Warsaw, and I saw a game going on.
I think there are now about 90 teams in Poland.
Yeah, there's a lot
It's
of
not
teams.
bad.
And a couple of these people have gone on to college. A few of them gone on to college in the United States. I think one or two made the pros.
Well, what's his name? The kicker.
Yeah, kickers are good. You know.
Yeah. Sebastian something.
My friend Rich Shara. Rich Shara is a guy that I knew early on when I came to Poland. He's unfortunately deceased, but he was a star when I was a little kid. And I remember him as a kicker for the New Orleans Saints. When I met him, I was like, I know you. And he goes, you like football? I said, yeah. We became good friends. He was a lovely guy. Anyway, let's move on. We have some subjects to get to. One of them is, I don't even want to talk about Kherson, you want to talk about Dugin first. Kherson or Dugin? Dugin.
Well, you know, if I don't really want to talk about Dugin.
He's a very boring man. Is he let's just get it out of the way. Is his wife, his daughter, of course, was blown up. Did they mean to get her, or did they mean to get him? Did they mean to get them together?
Who knows?
Can we make any sense of it?
Who knows? We have so many wild theories of what happened. I think the least credible of those is that it was the Ukrainians. So I heard it could be...
That makes no sense. That it would be the Ukrainian.
It makes absolutely no sense for them to do that. But apparently his sort of standing in Russia increased as a result of him being now made out to be a victim of a Ukrainian hit squad.
But this is
apparently
just more lies.
his voice is now more heard in Russia than before.
Yeah.
Because before he was really a sort of popular among a certain wacky sector of the sort of marginal right across the world, creating those, you know, using these word salads with, you know, long polysyllabic Latinates that impressed those people, and
An extremely boring academic, as opposed to Olgierd,
exactly,
who will have something, who's an extremely interesting academic. Olgierd, you had something, when we were speaking earlier, you had something to say about this.
Well, with Dugin, it's kind of interesting because he's usually overlooked because he seems to be that unimportant person. Although there are people who insist that he always had an ear of Putin. And I don't know, but I do see a lot of things repeated from Dugin in what Putin puts forward as his own ideas. I don't know, but on the other hand, it's highly unlikely that he was killed by Ukrainians. It's a really fancy story of this Ukrainian operative with her daughter and the cat following Dugin in his car. But everybody who was present, the Russians themselves insist on the TV. Dugin was not traveling with her. He was not supposed to travel with her. So why would we think that they blew up not Dugin but his daughter by design? That's really weird. And why would Ukrainians do it? It really seems like some kind of interplay of some kind of, as they call it, towers of Kremlin. One tower of Kremlin got upset with the other tower of Kremlin.
Yeah, a struggle between nobles in the old days. This sort of medieval stuff, knock off the noble who seems to be in your way, so you can attain that edge of power. But I'm wondering, because why this guy? Because apparently he wasn't even that close to Putin.
Well, I mean, as Olgierd is saying, he was a proponent of the sort of 1920s Euro-Asiatic theory, basically saying that Russia is an entity, a continent, a culture, a civilization to itself, and it spans Europe and Asia, is unique and has this destiny of leading the world and making everything in its own image. and that's convenient. It's a convenient ideology, but it's nothing new. It really stems from the old Third Rome theory, that when the Tsar married a Byzantine princess, he claimed to be the descendant or the next iteration of the Roman Empire after Constantinople fell, and that was used to give legitimacy to the Muscovite power, and it still holds, So all of those.
Well, I would disagree. They're trying to make Eurasianism into kind of a vehicle for their national ideology, because they really do not really have any coherent ideology right now. They want to make a Eurasianism to that, and Putin actually opened Euro-Asianic, whatever you call it, university, I think in Kazakhstan, who was supposed to do a research into Gumilov, Trubetskoy, and Dugin's ideas in all the post-Soviet area, and that was supposed to be one of the, what they call skrypy, how do you call them in Polish?
Skrypy? Nie znаю.
Skrypy, the things that hold together, the ideas that hold together the future reborn Russian Empire.
Yeah, because once you get rid of the samodzержавие, the rule of the Tsar, then communism as the binding ideology sort of reach for something else, and that to some extent was it. So
this is the new philosophy that can unite the country, following communism, following the Tsar, the Ivan the Terrible setup.
Well, yeah, I think it's grasping at straws, but this idea of Russia as a separate.
But this is so abstruse, so complicated. How can ordinary people understand what this means? Are they just?
Oh well,
they just getting
he's going to be the secretive, person who thinks thoughts. And then you've got Slutsky, who is now after Zhirinovsky on his daughter's funeral. He's mentioned simple words, very similar of another very famous and thoughtful person from Germany, when he says one country, one president, and one victory. Well, that's simple enough.
Yeah, you're talking about Adolphe, aren't you?
Yeah, the famous fan of Benito Mussolini.
Yeah, the hero of Chile, and Argentina. Which brings us to Mein Kampf. A lot of ideas stolen from Mein Kampf in looking at Ukrainians and other.
Beware what you're saying now, comparing Russia or Soviet Union to Hitleric Germany is illegal.
What?
In Russia.
What?
It is illegal. You actually can go to jail.
I can go to
officially.
I could go to jail?
We'll have to extradite you.
Wait, I hear footsteps.
We'll have to extradite you to Russia.
Here's footsteps. That means I'm hearing something? That's like a stage thing? We're on TV. We don't have to be that obvious. I could have just gone.
Stop laughing. One of the journalists has been just sentenced. Oh, all right, for another crime. Purportedly, he was a spy. Safronov was just sentenced to 22 years in prison.
For that?
So they are going after the journalist big time in Russia.
Okay, who was that? Who did he work for? And what did he say? Do you remember?
Safronov was even worse. He was working as a press secretary for Rogozin's space agency.
Right.
And he was accused of spying all of a sudden, although all his information was from the online sources that were available for everybody. And now he will spend 22 years in jail.
Well, I mean, I think there is a lot of that sort of 1930s spirit coming back. I mean, just recently, there's a very pro-Russian, you could say, YouTuber who goes by the nickname Bold and Bankrupt, and
I know that guy.
He was just deported from Russia. And
he travels all over there. He's an English guy with Eastern roots.
He absolutely loved
Russian roots.
He loved Russia, and
it doesn't have Russian roots.
I'm not sure, but for sure he was just arrested, deported, and barred from ever re-entering Russia. He said, Russia, you're shooting yourself in the foot, he said. You know,
Yeah.
it's insane.
Well, they don't like foreigners. They don't have it.
Spy mania.
I've been invited twice. I was invited to be on juries of film festivals there, by the film festivals. Neither time could I get my papers in order.
There you
They
go.
just didn't want me. They wouldn't let me in.
Yeah.
And I mean, rather like Groucho Marx, I wouldn't like to be a member of any club
That would actually.
that would have me as a member. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I won't join the Russia club. I've never been fascinated by Russia. I'm not one of those people. To me, it's just big and dull. Although I love some of the Russian writers. I love Turgenev, for example. Tolstoy, of course. Some of Dostoevsky. I recommend The Brother.
Dostoevsky is a very dark personage.
It's a bit dark. That's why I prefer Turgenev. I can relate to it more. Or Tolstoy, because he's telling, sort of epics. And Tolstoy really understands men and women in a very interesting way. He can develop those characters. But if you're going to read Dostoevsky, Brothers Karamazov, I suppose.
The Idiot.
And The Idiot, and maybe The Underground Diaries. Yeah.
Then Crime and Punishment.
Well, Crime and Punishment, but it's rather a...
You should read it.
You should read it, but Philip Marlowe is much better as a crime novel. It really is, because you can see it all coming. You know what's going to happen from the beginning. Whereas with
It's not a crime novel.
Raymond Chandler is much better at writing a crime novel.
It's a story of redemption.
It is, but you also have that in Karamazov, don't you? No, I mean, this is Russian in its soul. Is it not? We asked the professor.
I don't know. I think Dostoevsky's view of humanity is just so sad that it's... If I want to look at something like what he writes, I look into my toilet,
Yeah, I prefer Chekhov, Tolstoy. Turgenev is a beautiful writer. He's inspirational to
Yes.
so many British and French writers.
Poetry of Yesenin,
Yes.
beautiful
Yeah.
thing, beautiful.
Yeah, so they're
You
capable.
see the space and the soul.
Yeah.
I do prefer that to what, for example, to Dostoevsky.
Yeah, or Pasternak. Yeah, there's so many.
Oh,
and,
yes.
and if you really want to go deep, Solzhenitsyn, I think you need to read the Archipelago, because there's nothing like it that I've ever read. And you can turn on, like any great novel, like mine, in fact, you can turn to any page and be excited and interested. Yeah. It's very important in a book, isn't
Well,
it?
I think that the Gulag Archipelago is something that everyone
amazing.
should read, because
Amazing.
it tells the story that most of the people in the world don't know, and it's a cautionary tale.
Have you heard what recently they said on Russian TV about Gulag?
No.
That was much more humane than German lagers, because the aim of Russian Gulag is to reform people, whereas Germans just killed them.
Well, there were no smokestacks. It's that
Well, let's
simple.
put it this way. My cousin, she was deported in 1940. She came back to Poland after 16 years, and she spent that time chopping trees in the taiga. I don't think she came back reformed in any way, shape, or form, and thank God for that.
Well, the next thing, that's a great,
It's one of the reasons that we have 2% liking Russians, because many of our relatives went to Gulag.
Yeah.
Thank you for that reforming.
Right, and people have to understand when Polish or people from this area of the world talk about these things, boy, they have personal experience from their families, if not personal experience from having been there. But I will say, I wouldn't be surprised if both of them, the Germans and the Russians, eventually come around to where they were just fitness camps. We could lose a lot of weight there through labor. The answer to obesity. Okay, that's my dark humor on that, because I find it very hard, and this stuff nightmarish beyond my comprehension anyway. I want to talk in the closing minutes about Kherson, because we have been following that. We've been saying for some time that it's perhaps the best opportunity for a Ukrainian smashing victory, a victory that counts. And you and I were talking about it, and we've talked about it on the program, all three of us, and with other people, and we were talking before that. And I keep making this sort of Dien Bien Phu comparison, which was the 1955 battle in which the French found themselves surrounded. They were overconfident, felt superior, allowed themselves to be outflanked and surrounded, and it led to their expulsion, voluntary as well as mandatory, from Vietnam. So after having been there for nearly 100 years. Kherson, you had a varying point of view, but let's hear what Ivo has to say. We've got about 4 minutes. Let's hear what Ivo has to say, and then why don't you come in with your ideas, Olgierd, as we go out. And let's everybody, I urge you, keep your eyes on Kherson. If you are, or Kherson, if you're watching anything about the war, this is the most important place right now, unless something catastrophic happens elsewhere.
Well, I think it's very unusual for an army to declare where it plans to strike. So that is what the Ukrainians did, very unusual. Mm-hmm. It drew the Russians into this, sort of isolated area between the Black Sea and the Dnieper River, which eased the pressure in the east, right? So already that was a success in a sense, strategically for Ukrainians. But then by isolating those troops, by blowing up the bridges, in a sense, they created a situation in which you have a very large grouping of the Russians on a rather small area, in a small area, which I understand your point about Dien Bien Phu, that
they can be cut off.
They can be cut off, and now
they're almost cut off now.
Will they end up like the French there? Who knows? I mean, unfortunately, I think that the Ukrainians lack in firepower to truly do that. But nonetheless, this is a moment in which it is the Ukrainians who have the initiative, right? This is a turning point either way, because so far it was Ukrainians who were reacting to the moves by the Russians. Now it is the Russians who had to pull back their aircraft from Crimea because they were in danger. It is Russians who are sending troops in a different direction than they wanted to. So there is a big change.
All good. You've got 45 seconds.
I don't think Ukrainians can afford any large attack, but they're going to pinpoint strike the arms stocks, the headquarters, and they're doing it all the time. So eventually they might, I don't think it's going to be on Kherson, but they're going to bleed out more and more officer power from Russian army, and that will be their undoing eventually, I mean, of the Russian.
Thank you very much. We got to stop there. Fascinating stuff. I appreciate both of you. Ivo, good to see you.
Likewise.
My old friend, Ivo Bender, and a man who's becoming a friend over the summer, the illustrious Olgierd Uziemblo. Uziemblo. From out there, where you were hearing explosions earlier today, friendly explosions, probably practice there from the Army. At any rate, and sirens occasionally, you told me. Listen, everybody, thank you for watching the show. Please like us and subscribe on Facebook and YouTube. This helps a lot. And share the program if you will. We're doing something that's unique in this part of the world, and we appreciate your patronage. Okay. Oh, and by the way, did I say you're looking well? And why don't you stay that way?